Hello, I am Cryo, and welcome to part 3 of the linked universe stuff. This one is 4 of 5 by MewMix21. I still don't know what M-M is, but that's the category. Rating, mature. Archive warnings, the creator chose not to use archive warnings. Fandoms is The Legend of Zelda and related fandoms, and The Legend of Zelda Four Swords. Relationship is Shadow Link - Violink. Characters, Violink, Wild, Linked Universe, Red Link, Green, Linked Universe, Blue, Linked Universe, Twilight, Linked Universe, and I'm getting tired of saying that, so all of the ones from here is Linked Universe. So, Time, Warriors, Legend, 4, Hyrule, Sky, and Winds. Again, all of those is Linked Universe. Additional tags include Mew Mix's Vio, Linked Universe, Legend of Zelda, Female Wild, Emotional Vio, 4, Linked Universe, Split into the Colors, 4, Linked Universe Needs a Hug, Vio needs a hug. Colors reveal. Major character Undeath. Shadow revealed to Chain. Beta Red. Again, this is 4 of 5 by MewMix21. Summary. 4 explains about themselves and Shadow. Wild walked back into camp, ignoring the others as they tried to get her attention. Carefully, she grabbed the sheath of the 4 sword. She really didn't want to deal with 4 versions of herself. She was having enough problems with 1 version of herself already. Hyrule made a startled noise when she picked up the sword. Wait! 4 really doesn't want anyone touching that. They asked me to get it for them. They said as long as I touch the scabbard, it's safe. Touching other parts is unsafe? She shrugged as she was walking back to where she had emerged from the woods. It wasn't her place to answer that question. She giggled as she chucked the sword into the woods, letting out a loud, "Yeet!" Wind laughed as the rest looked at her in surprise. Time glared. "Wild, you can't just throw swords, especially other people's swords." She blinked at him. "I throw swords all the time in battle, and you've never complained." "Yes, we have. And anyways, battle's a different situation altogether. You just threw 4 sword into the woods for no reason." "They asked me to." Time was obviously lost for a response to that. 4 was usually the one giving lectures about proper weapon care and respecting your weapons. Why would he tell Wild to throw his sword? Normally he hissed at anyone who even tried to touch it. Everyone jumped when a flash of light came from the woods. Many tensed, worried about an attack, especially as 4 was in that direction, alone. When 4 came out of the woods after the flash, they relaxed, even at 4's expression. Eyes violet as he glared at Wild. "Did you really have to throw it that far? It almost hit a tree!" Wild shrugged with a smile. "It was really fun." Hyrule studied 4's face. "Are you okay? It looks like you've been crying." "Nothing's wrong. Actually, everything is better. We just learned something amazing." Their smile almost split their face. "Then why are you crying?" "First we have to explain why our name is 4. This had the entire chain focusing on 4, leaving their worried thoughts about Wild behind for now. Everyone had just assumed 4 used 4, as he was the hero of the 4 sword. Yes, 4 had other titles, but 4 had been rather insistent on using 4 as his nickname. Warriors obviously trying to lighten the tension, jokes. You do know talking about yourself in plural form is a sign of insanity. Not if there's more than one of us in here. I think that actually proves my point. If you actually think you're multiple people. 4's eyes turned bright blue suddenly, voiced an angry grumble as 4 crossed their arms, right hand ending up pressing on the blue square of their tunic. Why is Vio always right? Their eyes had changed to purple, arms loosening, and and hand moving to the violet square, smirking. Because I'm the smart one. You owe me 5 rupees. The smirk oddly reminded them of some of the foes they had fought during their usually evil monologues. They yelled, green eyes glaring into the sky, hands now on the green square. We're the same bloody person! It's all of our money. We don't have separate wallets. Betting against each other is pointless. Eyes once more violet, Four smirked. Blue still owes me 5 rupees. The group was staring at him, obviously bewildered. Oh, screw it. 4 lifted their sword high, and suddenly there were 4s. The one in the red tunic waved, grinned bright. Hi! Hey, Legend blinked. I did that on one of my quests, but I only had 3 people. The green one blinked. Who did you have? Red, blue, and green. Green winced. You didn't get the smart one? There's supposed to be a smart one? Motioning toward the purple 4. Vio is our brain cell. I mean, we occasionally share it, but Vio is definitely the smart one of the group. Vio rolled their eyes. We are all smart in our own ways. I simply have more traditional knowledge associated with being more intelligent than others. Blue gestured at Vio. See? The smart one. Wind was rapidly looking between the 4. So, who is who? I'm green. I'm usually in charge and technically the leader, mostly because I'm the best peacekeeper. He motioned towards Blue, who was scowling at Vio. That's Blue, our main fighter. We can all fight, of course, but Blue is the one that enjoys fighting. Blue is also the most abrasive of us. We apologize in advance. Blue snorted. Oh, big words. Stealing the brain cell. Green ignored Blue, pointing at Red. That's Red. He likes to make sure everyone is happy. Hates when we fight with each other. It's been harder recently, with us not splitting. It's easier to have arguments when we're looking at each other, and not just voices in our shared headspace. Vio grimaces. Prevents migraines as well. Green shrugged. Splitting is just nice sometimes. We can enjoy what we like to do most, individually then. We did it often before joining this quest, but haven't since. He tapped the side of his head. It was getting a little crowded in here. Red was hugging Vio. Green, why don't me and Vio sit down while you explain? He's getting tired. The already worried expressions of the other 2 strengthened. Vio had started crying again, Blue's distraction wearing off, and was leaning into Red for support. Blue sighed. Right, let's get Vio sitting down. Vio's had an emotional day today, and they're the least equipped of us to handle that. He pretended to look around this group for a spot. There's a spot next to Twilight. Let's sit Vio down there. Twilight was surprised at how close they had set down Vio beside him. Red was holding Vio's knee, leaning into Vio, pushing Vio even further towards him. Vio was curled up when Red and Blue sat them down, proceeding to bury their head into their knees. If Twilight's hearing wasn't so strong, he wouldn't have been able to hear the crying that was causing Vio to shake. Noticing the oddly guilty look Red was giving him, leaning even more into Vio, he went with his instincts and scooped the hurt pup up and into his lap. His arms wrapped around the injured pup, keeping him safe. If 4 heard him mentally calling him pup, there would be hell to pay. He was twitchy about people recognizing that he was 21 and not a kid. But Twilight might get an exception this time. If one of them was capable of reading minds. Hopefully that was an ability still not found in the group, even if 4 was very good at knowing what people were thinking. Vio hiccuped during the move before melting into his lap. The grateful looks from Vio's brothers told him his instincts had been right. He listened to Green explain what had occurred on their quest. Vio's crying slowly eased as Vio slumped over asleep. When Green finished talking, he looked over at his brothers, obviously concerned. Time was the first to speak. Well, we're glad you shared this with us, and I hope you'll feel comfortable splitting around us more often. I'm just concerned about your brother, correct? Green thought for a moment before nodding. Well, all of you look like you've been crying. Vio cried himself to sleep. I know we're all worried. but you said nothing was wrong. When we were talking with Wild, they asked us about Green's voice caught. Our shadow. Wild flipped her slate around, pointing at the picture. Everyone squinted to see the image. It was one of the first pictures. She zoomed the image into the space near 4, which had no shadow. I was confused at first because his shadow wasn't there at first. At first? Well, look at this photo. It's from last week. It was the same she showed 4 earlier, zooming into the spot under 4. The shadow under 4 was slightly off. Green swallowed thickly. You have all seen us react to your stories about dark links. Time nodded, as did others that had given similar tales. We didn't have a dark link. He took a deep breath, but his voice still shook. We had shadow. Having said the name, Green had to take several breaths before continuing, ignoring the more concerned looks of the group. Those who had memories of what darklings were like and the tricks they could pull were obviously worried about what Shadow had done to them, and not for them. He was formed from our shadow, and quite frankly, he kicked our asses the first time we fought. He was working for Vati, and we all thought he was as evil as Vati and Ganon. Grin's expression softened as he glanced at Vio. When Vio realized we wouldn't be able to find the Dark Mirror without insider information, they pretended to go over to their side. Blue laughed. Vio was really convincing. We all swore revenge for Vio's betrayal. Even Red. They hadn't told us his plan. Red smiled. Well, Vio's explanation was pretty good later. We suck at acting. Vati and Ganon would have known something was up if we just tried to act betrayed. Green agreed. As Vio spent time on the dark side, they got close to Shadow, and realized he wasn't evil. He was just as much a hero as any of us. But he had only been in existence, in the light realm, for a few minutes when Vati tricked him about who was good and what was the right thing to do. Red smiled. Vio made him realize this, and in the end, Shadow gave his life to seal the Dark Mirror. His voice turned ecstatic, a grin stretching across his face. But it turns out he didn't die. He just got weakened. He's starting to heal. He thinks he'll be able to become corporal again soon. Shadow just has to keep being near Twilight to heal. Twilight snorted. Is that why Vio has buried his way into my side and relaxed so much in my lap as to fall asleep? Shadow obviously is always the closest to Vio, so it makes sense that Vio spends time near you. Why would Shadow be closer to Vio than the rest of you? All of the awake force blushed. Not that anyone could see Shadow's, which was the brightest of the 4. Blue managed to squeak out. Vio and Shadow were, really close. The group looked confused. Like, really, really close. Warriors blinked. You mean those two were... Time's no swearing glare stopped Warriors from finishing the word. Red's voice was enraged. Don't you dare cheapen our siblings' love that way. Tear tracks started to streak down his cheeks again, but he was glaring at Warriors with rage in his eyes. Warriors had leaned as far back as he could in his seat. He even placed his hands up placatingly. Sorry. Red sat back down next to Vio, looking over worried. Vio hadn't woken up. Vio had barely moved. Green rubbed the back of his neck. Did I forget to mention that Red is a bit overprotective of our emotions? Legend snorted. You don't say. I would have never guessed. Green sighed. Let's just say it was obvious how close they were. When we are merged and think about Shadow, we can feel the deep sorrow and sense the romantic love that Vio feels for Shadow. Blue chuckled. We just don't look too hard into the details of Vio's memories about Shadow. Legend nodded. Explains why Vio was the most affected. You guys lost a brother, he lost the man he loved. Knowing he's healing must have been a shock. Red replied, Yeah, I think it brought back Vio's grief full force. Even knowing Shadow's healing has hit them the hardest. Red cocked his head. Well, Shadow is also pretty shook up. It's just harder to tell, as we can't see him outside the images on the slate. Twilight looked down at Red. Any idea on how long until the rest of us can meet him? Green smiled at the easy acceptance. He said 2 to 3 weeks. We'll get more details as time goes on. We can communicate with Shadow using Wild Slate, as it shows Shadow in the picture mode, and he can use sign to answer any questions. Twilight nodded before looking at Wild. Any chance of dessert? Red smiled. Do you have the ingredients for durian bread? I know I'm interested in trying your favorite dish. I can try to make a version of it. It works best in an oven, but my cast iron pot might work. The rest of the group turned gladly to the topic of favorite foods. When Blue mentioned that the dinner they just had was their favorite, they all got dirty looks. Cooking dinner went over much better for Wild this time. The others accepted when she declined their help. She did have Sky mash up the durians, much to his enjoyment. Everyone enjoyed the new dessert, Twilight doing his best not to land any crumbs on the vial. Soon enough, it was time for bed, Four re-emerging before turning in. Twilight sat down for his watch as close as he could to his cub, and still leave him enough room to sleep comfortably. Purple Eyes smiled up at Twilight as the spot Twilight chose left him practically sitting on Four. The eyes changed to green as Four's eyes closed. They needed to get some sleep in before their shift that was after Twilight's. Well, that was the end of this one. I hope y'all enjoyed. Again, this is part of Mumix's Linked Verse. It's the 3rd installment of 80-something. Yeah. It's a long one. I'm going to be trying to do all of it in one video. At least the longer ones probably won't be able to, but I'll try. So, I hope you enjoyed. Let me know in the comments what I can do better, and if there are any recommendations on other fics. So, yeah. I'm trying, my personal goal for the channel is to do lesser podfict, what's the word? Fandoms. That's the word. Lesser podfict fandoms, such as Twisted Wonderland, as seen in To Be a Person, To Have a Name, and Linked Universe. There are plenty of comics in Linked Universe that are on YouTube, but I've only seen one podfic. Trust me, I have looked. If there are any that I have not seen, please let me know. But yeah, most of what I find is DC, Danny Phantom, My Hero Academia, Marvel. So yeah, that's most of the podfics I've seen. I'm trying to do more. I'm trying to give the lesser known fandoms, lesser podfic fandoms, some love. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed. I will see you next time. Bye.